It's wrong to criticize leaders of the church, even if the criticism is true. It's wrong to criticize leaders of the church, even if the criticism is true.
Travis Wayne Goodsell. I'll do a video before I go to bed here and then upload it in the morning. President of the Quorum of the 12, Ezra Taft Benson, at a BYU devotional, February 26th, 1980. Gave what is called 14 Fundamentals in Following the Prophet. And this was put in as a first presidency message in the June 1981, I'm guessing Ensign. They're not clarifying, but yeah. So they tried to make it official after he gave this talk. And so let's go over them. The prophet is the only man who speaks for the Lord in everything. Now they're referring to the prophet, the president of the church, not the others. Oh, Oakes is saying other things. If you've been paying attention to conference under Nelson, listen to Oakes' talks. He's saying that the whole prophets have to come in complete agreement in order for anything to be spoken by the Lord. Well, let's see if there's something else that can justify Oakes over Benson. See where we're going already? Second, the living prophet is more vital to us than the standard works. Wow, so the words of Jesus, the Book of Mormon, which is the keystone of our religion? Uh-oh. We're now entering into conundrum area. Third, the living prophet is more important to us than a dead prophet. Oh, there you go, Oakes, you're safe. Fourth, the prophet will never lead the church astray. But if the living one changes the standard works and changes the dead prophets, it's not leading astray, or were the previous ones leading astray? Or is it just the church can change whenever it wants with whoever it wants, and it is all going to get us back to the same place? So the highest degree of the celestial kingdom is arbitrary? We just get to choose? Fifth, the prophet is not required to have any particular earthly training or diplomas to speak on any subject matter at any time. Yeah, no, so what? That's no big deal. Sixth, the prophet does not have to say, "Thus saith the Lord." Whoops, did I miss seventh? Or was that seventh? The prophet does not tell us what we need to know. Like, are we in the second coming? Is this it? Are we going to get freedom from bondage? Are we going to be rescued from the civil war that's about to break in? Well, it already has broken out, apparently. They're jumping the gun before the actual voting in Congress. Dear God. Not what we want to know. Yeah, we don't need to know if it's the latter days or not. We're just called the Latter-day Saints. Eighth, the prophet is not limited by man's reasoning. Because, see, It's just my man reasoning that does not understand the 14 fundamentals in following the prophet. I need to have faith. That will cure me. The prophet can receive revelation on any matter, temporal or spiritual. Now, that was 10th, right? 9th. So where's 10th? 10th. The prophet may well advise on civic matters. Yeah, they're big on, we don't want communism, but when it comes to fascism and Nazism, yeah, they're silent. The two groups who have the greatest difficulty in following the prophet this is a fundamental in following the prophet, so they have to go after the Antichrist, Travis. The two groups who have the greatest difficulty in following the prophet are the proud, who are the learned. Oh, yeah. I remember that era. And the proud who are rich. Wait a minute, the prophets are rich. Oh, but they're not proud. Got it. They're not following their own will. As Benson defined pride when he became president of the church in 1986. His infamous pride talk, where he said pregnancy is a pernicious evil. Look it up. The Aaronic priesthood session, or the priesthood session talking to the Aaronic priesthood, to the youth of the noble birthright. Pregnancy, a pernicious sin, pernicious evil. And 12, we got 3 more. 12th, the prophet will not necessarily be popular with the world or the worldly. They've always been popular since Brigham Young. 13th, the prophet and his counselors make up the first presidency. How is that a fundamental? The prophet and the president, the living, follow them and be blessed, reject them and die. Wow. So, okay, reject them and suffer. Okay, what do they want us to do right now during the coronavirus? Go to church, go to the temple, shop at their businesses, not online, at their stores, the City Creek Mall, and pay our tithing from the COVID relief fund, and have the fasts. So yes, go to Thanksgiving, go to Christmas, go to New Year's with your loved ones and family members. Okay, and so I have those Mormons who have followed President Nelson. Have they been blessed, or have they suffered under coronavirus? I guess increasing percentages and increased number of deaths don't count. I guess that's a different kind of suffering. Do you see where we're going with this? What are the lines that a prophet cannot cross? And you may say, well, yeah, but Travis, it says the prophet will never lead us astray. Did I read that one? I'm pretty sure I did. Where was it? It was back near the beginning. Man's reasoning. No. Saith the Lord. Training. Yeah, 4th. The prophet will never lead the church astray. Okay. Do you understand? Nelson is hinge pointing. So he's definitely leading the church in a completely different direction. That's what hinge pointing means. They talked about it in April conference. You were good Mormons, right? You paid attention. So what direction is he taking the church in? Well, we know some of it. The law of chastity was changed in the temple. Did you know that? Did you even go to the temple as a good Mormon should? Got to pay your tithing to get the temple recommend to go to the temple. You're supposed to go regularly. Do you know that the temple text was changed with the law of chastity? Not just Eve having a greater speaking role and women no longer needing to obey their husbands or hearken unto the counsel of your husband as he hearkens unto the counsel of the Father, which was changed by Benson for the 91 year when I came back from my mission. Did you know that Nelson changed it so that it's now the God's law, not legally and lawfully married? It's now legally and lawfully married according to God's law. Do you know the difference? Do you understand that a civil marriage is not accepted by the church? You still have to get sealed in the temple, but a sealing in the temple is accepted by the government. So when you get divorced, which divorce is the number one cause, or the marriage is the number one cause of divorce, ruin that joke. The church does not accept your divorce because it's done through the government. The church has sealing cancellations, and they don't allow it unless you get first presidency approval if one of you submits and the other one gives their feelings on the matter. I know all about that. First wife did that. And typically they don't allow it unless there's some major sin. Abandoning the marriage, taking away the kids, fleeing the country, counted. And it was her, not me. She was the one calling for it. And so the second ex-wife, she's still married to me according to God's law. But if you know where God's law comes from in our standard works, which the living prophet is more important than the standard works, but he's in harmony on this one, sort of, not the Book of Mormon, the Doctrine and Covenants that was changed by Brigham Young. Section 132. Everybody should automatically know the main theme for the majority of Doctrine and Covenant scriptures. That's how I learned them. Section 132, celestial marriage. Polygamy. 10 virgins. Look it up. You're supposed to be studying your scriptures, right? This year is Doctrine and Covenants, right? So this year they're going to talk about polygamy, right? Yeah, I bet they will. They're going to skip over it like they always have, because the United States of America slammed the church hard for polygamy. Shut them down. Church ceased to exist because of the Edmunds-Tucker Act. Did you know that? The church that we currently are in is from 1923. That's when it was reincorporated under the current system. And they did away with everything Brigham Young because the United States shut them down. But Brigham Young was clever and inspired by God to put in 132 to replace the chapter on monogamy and section 131, which he had gutted. Look it up in the Joseph Smith papers. Come on, people. Don't make me do all the work. And so he claimed that it was by Joseph, and thus it's allowed to stay. But they put in the official declarations to show the government that they're taking this seriously now. They never did. And they still aren't under Nelson, as they're trying to go back to it. You know, blacks got the priesthood because they made a deal with the government to do away with the Edmunds-Tucker Act. Same year, not a coincidence. And so, can a prophet really never lead the church astray, as number 4 says? You know, is it okay during Brigham Young's time to murder the indigenous people, to murder the poor Mormons who couldn't come during the summertime, so that they had to sell all that they had to build hand carts to carry them across the plains and die in the winter? Is it okay for Brigham Young to start polygamy, and thus by starting polygamy there were men who didn't have wives, and so he created brothels for the men who didn't have wives, and for those who did have wives? Brigham Young frequented the one on Regent Street called Commerce Avenue. Commerce Avenue, I think it was called. A little tongue-in-cheek nickname for it. And the brewery, because you got to have beer in the brothels, as well as the tobacco fields, because you got to have tobacco, whether chewing or the smokes, in the brothels as well. So I guess he's inspired by God for the Mormons at that time, but the current one is no longer... Oh, wait a minute, he is going back to polygamy. Are prophets able to do this? Can they go back and forth on what qualifies a Mormon to be good? What qualifies a Mormon to be exalted in the highest degree of the celestial kingdom? Are you sure? Is Benson telling us the truth? Is he not leading us astray in saying that they will never lead us astray? Is it okay for Brigham Young to say that Adam is now our Heavenly Father? Is that okay for him to do? Is he leading the church astray, or is he not leading the church astray? Can you change who God is? And Jesus Christ, can you change who Jesus is? Did you know that all 3 periods of church history, there were different Jesuses? Joseph Smith's is named Son Amen, after Isaiah's Amen El, Emmanuel. Did you know that? Did you understand why we call it Adam Ondi Amen? And that should also give you a clue that Joseph Smith did not say that Adam is Heavenly Father, because it's Adam, place of Amen, where God dwelt. Which means God is Heavenly Father, and yeah. But is it okay? Because in 1923, when the church finally reincorporated, as decades had gone by since the church was disincorporated, completely shut down, it was only able to reestablish a church again because Mormons became a culture, just like Jews, whereas Christians aren't really a culture. They're not an ethnic group, because there's so many different kinds of Christians. And so certain individual groups may be considered an ethnic group if they're inclusive or exclusive. But Brigham Young's organization was exclusive. They excluded people. He stopped doing missionary work, called everybody home. So, the new religion established in 1923 decided to go Christian, but more in line with Christian fundamentalists who were now emerging. And they chose the right one, that's for sure, because evangelical Christians are likely to be among the largest of the various Christian sects. But again, is the church allowed to do this? Are they leading the church astray? Are they more important to us than dead prophets? Do we need to follow Joseph Smith anymore? Because he's dead. Do we need to follow him anymore? Can we just wait to be told what to do by the current Nelson? And then when he dies, then we wait for the new prophet to tell us what he wants us to do. Disregarding scriptures, disregarding all the previous prophets, disregarding Jesus Christ. Is that how it works? Because I know you think that, Mormons. I'm here in Utah. I've been talking to you for decades. I know you think this way. And you do it so that you can justify the church's existence as true. Maybe if you don't want to suffer, you shouldn't follow the church prophets. Just my suggestion, what do I know? I'm just an antichrist. But which antichrist? Joseph Smith's antichrist? The Book of Mormon's antichrist? Brigham Young's antichrist? Or the current church's antichrist? Or we can even go through all of the prophets' antichrist. Which one? Which antichrist am I? Because I'm not an antichrist of Joseph Smith. That's what Mormons fail to understand. And so, what line does a prophet cross for you to say, I'm going to have to be an antichrist and suffer by not following the prophet anymore? I'm out. What line will it take? Will it take a prophet saying, hey, I need your wife for my wife. She's got to be mine now. Really? You're going to go for that? I know they talk about Joseph Smith having done that. Never happened. Did you know it never happened? Or do you believe the lie? Because the current prophet can claim whatever he wants and override the previous one, according to Benson. You know, Kimball and Hinckley both said in conference over the pulpit, Brigham was wrong. Adam is not our Heavenly Father. Hinckley went on that talk show and said, no, we don't practice polygamy. We never did. He lied. Liar. Because it's called bigamy, technically, not polygamy. Bigamy is when you're married to more than one spouse. And as I said, I'm still technically sealed to Karen. I'm no longer sealed to Stephanie. But when Karen and I got sealed in the Salt Lake Temple, room number 13, which was cool. She had to get permission from her ex to get a sealing cancellation first. Because the church does not want women to be sealed to more than one man. But men? Oh yeah, that's fine. They've changed it now so that I have to get the permission of the other sealed wives, the other 10 virgins. But yeah, I can be married to as many women as I want according to God's law. Just as long as it's not done civilly. The United States can't do nothing about it. That's how the church can get away with it. They're already practicing bigamy, as many Mormons and even ex-Mormons who are listening to this video can say, oh yeah, me too. Again, what line does a prophet cross? You know, is the Book of Mormon the keystone of our religion, or isn't it? Is it the president of the church, or isn't it? Is our Jesus, after the learning of the Jews and the language of the Egyptians, as the Book of Mormon says it is? He is? Do you even know what type of Jesus that's supposed to be? Give you a hint. He's not coming from outer space flying on Pegasus for the second coming. But they never go over that chapter in Sunday school lessons when it's time for the New Testament, because Revelation is at the end of the year, and they purposely designed it so that it's never covered. As I've already gone over with you today, or yesterday, because I'm doing this tomorrow, about section 1 of the Doctrine and Covenants, and the key information that is vital for us right now, and it's gone. They're not even going to talk about it, because again, the living prophet will tell us what we need to know, not what we want to know. So this is the conundrum of Mormonism. They purposely cause this confusion, and this confusion results in Mormons struggling to understand and are made to feel like they're nothing, that the prophets know all and we just don't comprehend and understand yet. And until we do, we need to stay with the church. And then we get Mormon excuses saying, oh, I'll find out in the afterlife, or we'll find out in the millennium. But if we're not having a second coming, we're never going to have a millennium. So you'll never know. But maybe that's your point. So, yeah, please understand, Mormons. I don't hate you. You may think it, but you have never read about Elijah and the priests of Baal, or you've forgotten about that story. Our scriptures takes out a key passage that is in the original Hebrew text, because Elijah asks, is your God taking a piss? Where is he? What's holding him up? And how long does it take him? I guess the older you get, the longer it takes to go. And since he's, quite a few billion years old. Time for bed.